The morning sun cast long shadows across the rolling hills of Cedar Valley, Montana, as Cole Brennan guided his pickup truck down the winding country road toward town. At 34, Cole had the weathered hands and sun-lined face of a man who'd spent his life working the land, and today he was headed to Whitmore to pick up feed for his cattle ranch. The September air was crisp with the promise of autumn, and the aspen trees were just beginning to show hints of gold. Cole had been running the Triple B ranch alone for the past 3 years, ever since his father passed and left him the family spread. It was a good life, if a solitary 1,200 acres of prime Montana rangeland, a modest herd of Black Angus cattle, and a small but comfortable ranch house that had been in the Brennan family for 4 generations. Some folks in town thought he was crazy for not taking a wife, but Cole had learned to be cautious about matters of the heart after his ex-fiancée, Rebecca, had left him for a banker from Billings 5 years ago. As he crested the hill overlooking Whitmore, Cole could see the white steeple of St. Mary's Church rising above the modest collection of buildings that made up the town center. Saturday weddings were common in Whitmore. It was the kind of place where families had deep roots and traditions ran strong. From his vantage point, he could see cars lined up along Main Street and figured someone was getting married this morning. Cole was thinking about his shopping list when something white caught his eye in his rearview mirror. A figure was running down the road behind him, stumbling and weaving like someone in distress. As the figure got closer, Cole realized it was a woman in a wedding dress, her veil streaming behind her as she ran barefoot down the asphalt. "What the hell?" Cole muttered, pulling over to the shoulder and throwing the truck in reverse. The woman looked up as his truck approached, her face flushed and tear-streaked, her elaborate wedding gown torn and dirty at the hem. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with auburn hair that had come loose from an elaborate updo and green eyes that held a mixture of fear and determination. Cole rolled down his window. "Ma'am, are you all right? Do you need help?" She looked at him with desperate eyes, glancing back toward town before speaking. "Please," she gasped, out of breath from running. "I need to get away from here. Can you give me a ride?" "Away from your own wedding?" Cole asked, noting the obvious. "It's not my wedding," she said fiercely. "Not anymore. Please, I'll explain everything, but I need to leave now." Something in her voice convinced him. Cole had always been a sucker for someone in trouble, and this woman was clearly in distress. "Get in," he said, reaching across to open the passenger door. She gathered up the voluminous skirts of her dress and climbed into the truck, breathing hard. "Thank you," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm Sofia Martinez." "Cole Brennan," he replied, pulling back onto the road. "And I'm guessing you've got quite a story to tell. This incredible story is just getting started. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing true stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat." Sofia looked back one more time toward Whitmore, where Cole could now see several cars pulling out of the church parking lot, clearly searching for someone. "They're looking for me," she said quietly. "Who's they?" Cole asked, pressing the accelerator a little harder. "My family." His family. "Everyone who thinks they know what's best for me." Sofia's voice carried a bitterness that seemed too mature for her years. "I was supposed to marry David Castellanos today. Our families have been planning this wedding for 2 years. But you don't want to marry him," Cole observed. "I don't even know him," Sofia said, her voice breaking slightly. "I mean, I know him, but not really. Our families are business partners. My father imports coffee. David's family owns restaurants. This marriage is about securing deals and combining assets, not about love." Cole felt a familiar anger rise in his chest. He'd grown up in a world where people married for love, where a man courted a woman properly and respected her choices. The idea of an arranged marriage in modern-day America seemed wrong to him. "So you ran," he said. "I ran," Sofia confirmed. "Right there at the altar, in front of 300 guests. Father Miguel was asking if there were any objections, and I realized I was the one who objected. So I said I object and ran straight out of the church." Despite the seriousness of the situation, Cole found himself smiling slightly. "That must have caused quite a stir. The biggest scandal in Whitmore history, I'm sure," Sofia said, but there was a note of satisfaction in her voice. "My mother probably fainted. My father is probably calling his lawyer to see if he can sue me for breach of contract." They drove in silence for a few minutes, the town of Whitmore disappearing behind them. Cole was trying to figure out what to do with a runaway bride when Sofia spoke again. "I don't have anywhere to go," she admitted quietly. "I don't have any money. My purse is back at the church. I don't have any clothes except this dress. I don't even have shoes." She looked down at her bare feet, which were already showing cuts from running on the asphalt. Cole glanced at her, taking in the full scope of her situation. She'd literally run away with nothing but the clothes on her back. And those clothes happened to be a wedding dress that probably cost more than most people made in a month. "Well," he said finally, "I reckon you can stay at my place until you figure out what comes next. I've got a guest room, and it's far enough from town that nobody's likely to come looking." Sofia turned to look at him with surprise. "You don't even know me. I could be crazy. I could be dangerous." "Could be," Cole agreed, "but I doubt anyone dangerous runs away from their own wedding. Besides, my mother raised me to help folks in trouble, and you're definitely in trouble." For the first time since he'd picked her up, Sofia smiled a real smile that transformed her entire face. "Thank you," she said softly. "I promise I won't be any trouble." Cole nodded, already wondering what he was getting himself into. "Well, see about that," he said, but his tone was gentle, as they drove toward the Triple B ranch. Neither of them could have imagined how completely this chance encounter would change both of their lives. Behind them, the search for the missing bride was just beginning. And ahead of them lay a journey that would challenge everything they thought they knew about love, family, and finding where you truly belong. The autumn wind whipped through the open windows as they left the last traces of civilization behind, heading into the vast Montana wilderness where anything seemed possible. Sanctuary, the Triple B Ranch, appeared before them like something out of a western movie. A sprawling log cabin ranch house with a wide front porch, surrounded by pastures where black Angus cattle grazed peacefully in the afternoon sun. The main house was flanked by a large red barn, several outbuildings, and corrals where horses stood in companionable groups, their tails swishing lazily. Sofia stared out the window in wonder. After a lifetime in suburban Phoenix, where her family's wealth had insulated her from anything resembling real ranch life, this felt like stepping into another world entirely. "It's beautiful," she breathed as Cole parked the truck near the front porch. "Been in my family for 4 generations, Cole said with quiet pride. "My great-grandfather homesteaded here in 1892. We've added to it over the years, but the bones of the place are still the same." He came around to help her out of the truck, offering his arm as she navigated the high step in her cumbersome wedding dress. Sofia had never realized how impractical a ball gown could be until she'd tried to run in one. "Let's get you inside and find you something more practical to wear," Cole said, leading her up the front steps. "I think my sister left some clothes here the last time she visited." The interior of the ranch house was warm and welcoming, with exposed wooden beams, a stone fireplace, and comfortable furniture that showed signs of daily use. Family photos covered the mantelpiece, and Sofia could see generations of Brennans looking back at Herman and women with Cole's same strong jaw and steady eyes. "Your sister lives nearby?" Sofia asked as Cole led her down a hallway lined with more family photos. "Katie lives in Denver, now she's a nurse. Married a good man named Tom, has 2 kids. She comes up for holidays and sometimes brings the kids for a week in the summer." Cole opened the door to a bedroom that was clearly the guest room, decorated in soft blues and whites with a quilt that looked handmade. "Bathroom's right through there, and I'll see what I can find for you to wear." Left alone, Sofia sank down on the edge of the bed and really looked at herself for the first time since her dramatic escape. Her reflection in the dresser mirror showed a woman she barely recognized, hair disheveled, makeup smeared, the elaborate beadwork on her dress catching the light. She looked like she'd been through a tornado. The wedding dress had cost $8,000. Her mother had insisted on designer everything: the dress, the shoes, the veil, the jewelry. Sofia had felt like a doll being dressed up for display. And now she understood that's exactly what she had been. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. "Sofia, I found some things that might fit." She opened the door to find Cole holding a small stack of clothes. Jeans, a couple of shirts, some boots that might work. "Katie's about your size, I think." "Thank you," Sofia said, accepting the clothes gratefully. "Cole, I want you to know, I'm going to pay you back for this. For everything. Once I figure out how to access my money without my father knowing." Cole studied her face seriously. "Your father, the kind of man who'd cut you off for running away from this wedding?" Sofia's laugh was bitter. "My father is the kind of man who sees his children as assets in his business portfolio. I've been groomed my entire life to marry well and produce grandchildren who'll carry on the family name. Running away from David doesn't just embarrass him, it costs him a very lucrative business deal." "What kind of business deal?" "David's Family owns a chain of upscale Mexican restaurants throughout the Southwest. My father imports specialty coffee and other goods from Central America. The marriage was supposed to cement an exclusive supply agreement that would make both families very wealthy. Sofia sat back down on the bed, suddenly feeling exhausted. I've known about the arrangement since I was 16. I just never really believed they'd go through with it. Cole leaned against the doorframe, his expression growing darker. You mean they've been planning to sell you off since you were a kid, not sell? Sofia corrected automatically, then stopped herself. Actually, yes. That's exactly what they were doing. David is a nice enough man, he's educated, handsome, from a good family. But I don't love him. And he doesn't love me. We're just two people whose families think we'd make a good merger. The anger in Cole's eyes was unmistakable. That's not how marriage is supposed to work. It is in my world, Sofia said quietly. Or it was. I guess I don't belong to that world anymore. Cole was quiet for a moment, then pushed off from the doorframe. Well, you're safe here for as long as you need to be. Change into those clothes and come out to the kitchen when you're ready. I'll make us some lunch, and we can figure out what comes next. After he left, Sofia changed out of the wedding dress with relief. The jeans and flannel shirt fit reasonably well, and the boots were only slightly too big. For the first time in hours, she could breathe properly. She caught sight of herself in the mirror again, and was surprised by how different she looked, younger somehow. Less polished, but more real. She found Cole in the kitchen, which was clearly the heart of the ranch house. It was large and practical, with a big wooden table, modern appliances, and windows that looked out over the ranch yard. He was putting together sandwiches, and had coffee brewing. Much better, he said, looking up as she entered. You look more comfortable. I feel human again, Sofia admitted, sitting down at the table. That dress was like wearing a straitjacket made of satin. Cole set a plate in front of her, a simple turkey sandwich with fresh bread that looked homemade. My housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, made the bread yesterday. She comes in twice a week to help with the house, and does most of the cooking. Make sure I don't live on nothing but beef and beer. Sofia took a bite and closed her eyes with pleasure. After a morning of nerves and nausea, the simple food tasted incredible. This is wonderful. I can't remember the last time I had anything this good. You don't cook? I was never allowed to learn, Sofia said, with a rueful smile. My mother said cooking was for servants, not for wives of important men. I was supposed to learn languages, art appreciation, how to hostess dinner parties. Useful skills for a trophy wife. Cole shook his head in disgust. No wonder you ran. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, the only sounds coming from the kitchen clock and the occasional lowing of cattle outside. Sofia found herself relaxing for the first time in months. There was something about Cole's steady presence that made her feel safe, grounded. Can I ask you something? She said finally. Shoot. Why did you help me? You don't know anything about me. For all you know, I could be lying about everything. Cole considered this seriously. I suppose you could be. But I don't think you are. And even if you were, nobody deserves to be forced into a marriage they don't want. Nobody. You sound like you speak from experience. Cole's jaw tightened slightly. I was engaged once. Woman named Rebecca. Thought we were building something real together. But it turned out she was more interested in what I could provide than who I was. Left me for a banker who could give her the city life she really wanted. I'm sorry, Sofia said softly. Don't be. Taught me something important about the difference between someone who loves you and someone who loves what you represent. Cole met her eyes across the table. Sounds like you were about to learn that lesson the hard way. Sofia nodded, feeling a connection to this quiet rancher that surprised her. What happens now? I mean, they're going to be looking for me. Let them look, Cole said firmly. This ranch is 30 miles from town and 5 miles from the nearest neighbor. Unless they bring tracking dogs, they're not going to find you here. But I can't hide forever. No, Cole agreed. But you can hide long enough to figure out what you really want to do with your life. Sometimes that's all a person needs, time to think without everyone else telling them what they should want. Sofia felt tears prick her eyes. When was the last time someone had asked her what she wanted? Really wanted. Not what she was supposed to want or what would make her family happy. Thank you, she said quietly. I know this is crazy, but thank you for giving me that chance. Cole reached across the table and squeezed her hand briefly. Everybody deserves a chance to choose their own path. That's what freedom means. Outside, the autumn wind picked up, rattling the windows and reminding them both that winter was coming. But inside the warm kitchen of the Triple B Ranch, Sofia felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. finding home 3 days into stay at the Triple B Ranch. Cole watched from the kitchen window as she attempted to feed the chickens in the yard behind the house. She'd volunteered for the chore that morning, insisting she wanted to be useful rather than just a house guest. But it was clear she'd never been around farm animals in her life. The chickens, sensing her nervousness, had become more aggressive than usual, squawking and flapping as they competed for the grain she was scattering with shaking hands. When the large rooster bird Cole called Napoleon for his imperious attitude, made a sudden move toward her feet, Sofia jumped backward with a small shriek, dropping the feed bucket and sending grain flying everywhere. Cole couldn't help but smile as he pushed through the back door. "Need some backup? These are the most aggressive chickens I've ever encountered," Sofia said, breathing hard as Napoleon strutted around the scattered grain with obvious satisfaction. "I think that rooster is plotting against me." "Napoleon's just testing you," Cole said, scooping up the bucket and refilling it from the feed bin. "Here, watch how I do it." He moved among the chickens with calm confidence, scattering the grain in a steady rhythm, while keeping an eye on Napoleon. The birds responded to his presence immediately, settling into their normal feeding routine. "The trick is to show them you're not afraid," Cole explained. "Animals can sense fear, and they'll take advantage if they think you're weak." "I'm definitely weak when it comes to farm animals," Sofia admitted. "This is all new to me." Over the past 3 days, Sofia had been trying to make herself useful around the ranch, with mixed results. She'd attempted to help Mrs. Chen with the laundry, and had turned Cole's favorite shirt pink by mixing colors. She'd tried to make coffee, and had somehow managed to break the carafe. Her efforts to help with dinner had resulted in burned vegetables, and a smoke alarm that wouldn't stop beeping. But Cole noticed that she kept trying. Each failure seemed to strengthen her resolve rather than discourage her. And there was something admirable about her determination to contribute. "Tell you what," Cole said, handing her the bucket again. "Let's start with something easier. You want to learn ranch life? We'll start with the basics." For the next hour, Cole taught Sofia how to properly feed and water the chickens, how to collect eggs without getting pecked, and how to recognize signs of trouble in the flock. She was an eager student, asking thoughtful questions and taking mental notes of everything he said. "Why did you decide to become a rancher?" she asked as they moved on to checking the cattle in the near pasture. "Didn't really decide," Cole said, leaning against the fence rail as he counted the herd. "It's what I grew up with. My father taught me. His father taught him. It's in my blood, I guess. But you could have done something else. You're clearly intelligent, well-educated. You could have had a career in the city." Cole was quiet for a moment, watching his cattle graze in the afternoon. "Son, I went to college. Studied business administration because my father thought it would help me run the ranch better. Spent 4 years in Bozeman, living in apartments and sitting in classrooms, and every day I felt like I was suffocating." He pointed to the rolling hills that stretched to the horizon. "This is freedom to me. Working with my hands, being responsible for something that matters, living by the rhythms of the seasons instead of some corporate schedule. I tried the other life, and it wasn't for me." Sofia followed his gaze across the landscape, trying to see it through his eyes. She'd grown up thinking that success meant urban sophistication, the right neighborhood, the right schools, the right social connections. But there was something appealing about the simplicity Cole described, the connection to the land and the work. "What about you?" Cole asked. "If you could do anything, what would it be?" The question caught Sofia off guard. I don't know. I've never really thought about it. My life has been planned out since I was a child. The right schools, the right activities, the right marriage, the right children. I've never been asked what I wanted. Well, I'm asking now." Sofia considered this seriously. "I think I'd like to do something that matters. Something that helps people. I've always been interested in education, maybe teaching. But I'd need to go back to school. Get proper credentials. What's stopping you? Money, for one thing. My trust fund is controlled by my father until I'm 30, or until I marry someone he approves of. I have some savings, but not enough for college tuition." Cole nodded thoughtfully. "There are other ways to pay for school. Scholarships, student loans, work-study programs. It's not easy, but it's possible." The idea of making her own way in the world, without her family's money or connections, was both terrifying and exhilarating. Sofia had never had to worry about paying rent or buying groceries, had never had a job or earned her own money. The prospect of independence was daunting. That evening, as they sat on the front porch watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple, Sofia's phone rang. She'd been dreading this call for 3 days. "It's my mother," she said, looking at the screen with obvious reluctance. You don't have to answer it, Cole said. I do. I've been ignoring their calls, but they're probably worried sick. Sofia took a deep breath and answered, Hola, mama. Even from several feet away, Cole could hear the rapid-fire Spanish coming from the phone, the tone clearly agitated. Sofia responded in the same language, her voice getting quieter and more strained as the conversation continued. Sí, estoy bien. No, no voy a volver. Mamá, por favor. Finally, Sofia ended the call and slumped back in her chair, looking exhausted. How bad? Cole asked. Pretty bad. They've been searching for me for 3 days. David's family is threatening to sue for breach of contract. My father is furious. My mother is heartbroken. And everyone wants to know where I am. Sofia rubbed her temples. They want me to come home immediately and go through with the wedding. And what did you tell them? That I'm safe, that I'm not coming home, and that there isn't going to be a wedding. Sofia's voice was stronger now, more certain. My mother cried. She said I was breaking up the family, ruining my father's business, destroying my own future. Do you believe that? Sofia was quiet for a long moment. 3 days ago, I might have, but being here, talking to you, thinking about what I actually want instead of what everyone expects me to want. I think maybe I'm finally starting my life instead of ruining it. Cole reached over and took her hand. That takes courage. It doesn't feel brave. It feels terrifying. Same thing. Sometimes, they sat in comfortable silence as the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Sofia realized that this moment sitting on a ranch porch with a man she'd known for 3 days, watching the sunset over Montana rangeland, felt more right than anything in her carefully planned life ever had. Cole, she said quietly, can I ask you something else? Always. Would it be possible for me to stay here a little longer? I know I'm imposing, and I promise I'll find a way to pay you back, but I need more time to figure things out. Cole squeezed her hand gently. You can stay as long as you need to. This place is big enough for 2 people, and I could use the help around the ranch. Even if I'm terrible at feeding chickens, especially then. Someone needs to keep Napoleon humble. Sofia laughed, feeling lighter than she had in months. For the first time in her life, she was exactly where she wanted to be, with no one telling her where to go or what to do next. It was a feeling she could get used to. Unknown to either of them, a black SUV with Arizona plates had been spotted in Whitmore that afternoon, and David Castellanos was asking questions about a missing bride and the rancher who might have helped her disappear. The peaceful interlude at the Triple B ranch was about to be tested. Love and belonging. 2 weeks later, Sofia stood in the ranch kitchen at dawn, successfully preparing breakfast without setting off any smoke alarms. She'd finally mastered Mrs. Chun's coffee technique and had learned to cook basic meals without disaster. The morning routine had become natural to her. Coffee first, then feed the animals while Cole handled the larger livestock, then breakfast together before starting the day's work. She was flipping pancakes when she heard the rumble of vehicles coming up the ranch road. Through the kitchen window, she could see a convoy of 3 black SUVs kicking up dust as they approached. The house, Cole, she called, but he was already coming through the back door, his expression grim. I saw them, he said, moving to stand beside her at the window. Stay inside. The lead SUV pulled up in front of the house, and Sofia's heart sank as she recognized the man getting out of the passenger seat. Her father, Eduardo Martinez, was a distinguished-looking man in his 50s, impeccably dressed, even for a trip to rural Montana. Behind him came David Castellanos and several men Sofia didn't recognize, probably security or lawyers. How did they find me? Sofia whispered. Small town, Cole said grimly. Someone must have seen you and talked. Eduardo Martinez strode up to the front porch with the confidence of a man accustomed to getting his way. His knock on the door was sharp and authoritative. Cole squeezed Sofia's shoulder. You don't have to go with them. This is my property, and you're here by choice. But they're my family, Sofia said, her voice wavering. Family doesn't force you into a marriage you don't want. Cole replied firmly. The knocking became more insistent, followed by Eduardo's voice. Sofia, I know you're in there. Come out so we can talk like civilized people. Cole opened the door but didn't invite them in. Mr. Martinez, I presume. You must be the cowboy who kidnapped my daughter, Eduardo said, his voice dripping with disdain. I didn't kidnap anyone, Cole replied calmly. I gave a ride to a woman who asked for help. She's been staying here as my guest. Guest? Eduardo scoffed. My daughter has been missing for 2 weeks. We've been worried sick. Sofia appeared behind Cole, and Eduardo's expression softened slightly. Mia, thank God you're safe. Come home with me now, and we'll forget this foolishness ever happened. It's not foolishness, Papa Sofia said, stepping out onto the porch despite Cole's protective stance. I'm not coming home, and I'm not marrying David. David Castellanos stepped forward, his handsome face earnest. Sofia, I understand you got cold feet. It's natural before a big wedding. But we can work through this. Our families have invested too much in this relationship to throw it away over pre-wedding jitters. It wasn't cold feet, Sofia said, her voice growing stronger. I don't want to marry you, David. I don't love you, and you don't love me. We barely know each other. Love will come, Eduardo interjected. Your mother and I had an arranged marriage, and we built a good life together. A good business partnership, Sofia corrected. That's all it ever was. Eduardo's patience was clearly wearing thin. Enough of this nonsense. You're coming home now. You've embarrassed our family enough. She's not going anywhere. She doesn't want to go, Cole said, stepping slightly in front of Sofia. Eduardo looked Cole up and down with obvious contempt. And what can you offer her, cowboy? You think a ranch hand can give my daughter the life she deserves? I can offer her something you can't, Cole replied evenly. The freedom to choose her own path. Freedom. Eduardo laughed bitterly. Freedom. To throw away her education, her family, her future for what? To play house with a farmer. Sofia felt anger flare in her chest. Don't talk about Cole that way. He's shown me more kindness in 2 weeks than you've shown me in 25 years. Kindness doesn't pay bills, David said. Sofia, be realistic. What kind of future do you have here? You'll be poor, isolated, forgotten. Maybe, Sofia said, surprising everyone, including herself. But I'll be free to make my own choices, my own mistakes. I'll be living my life, not someone else's plan for my life. Eduardo pulled out his phone and showed Sofia the screen. Do you see this? The stock price of both our companies has dropped 15% since news of your ... episode got out. You're not just destroying your own future, you're destroying the livelihood of hundreds of employees. The guilt hit Sofia like a physical blow. She'd known her actions would have consequences, but she hadn't fully considered the broader impact. Cole must have sensed her wavering because he spoke up. That's emotional manipulation, and you know it. Your daughter is not responsible for your business decisions. Stay out of this, Eduardo snapped. This is family business. It became my business when Sofia asked for my help, Cole replied, and I'm not going to stand by and watch you bully her into a life she doesn't want. The tension was escalating rapidly, and Sofia could see that the situation was about to spiral out of control. She made a decision. I need to speak with my family alone, she said. Cole, could you give us a few minutes? Cole looked reluctant, but he nodded. I'll be in the barn. Call if you need me. After Cole left, Eduardo's demeanor changed completely. He stepped closer to Sofia, his voice dropping to a more intimate register. Mia, I know you think I'm being cruel, but I'm trying to protect you. This man, this rancher, what do you really know about him? You've known him for 2 weeks. How do you know he's not just taking advantage of a vulnerable young woman? The question hit harder than Sofia expected, because she'd been asking herself the same thing. Was her gratitude to Cole clouding her judgment? Was she confusing rescue with romance? You could have anything, David added. Travel, education, a home in any city you choose. I'm not some controlling husband. We could have separate lives, separate interests. You'd have all the freedom you want and the security you deserve. Sofia looked at the faces of these 3 men, her father, her intended husband, and the hired security, and realized they all saw her the same way. As an asset to be managed, a problem to be solved, a commodity to be negotiated. You're right, she said finally. I have known Cole for only 2 weeks, but in those 2 weeks, he's never once told me what I should want or how I should feel. He's never tried to make decisions for me or trade me like a business asset. She turned to David. You say you'd give me freedom, but you want to marry me without love. You say I could have separate interests, but you want me to be your wife for business reasons. That's not freedom. That's a different kind of cage. Eduardo's face was reddening with anger. So you're choosing poverty over security, obscurity over prominence. I'm choosing the chance to build something real, Sofia said, even if I don't know what that looks like yet. And if this rancher breaks your heart, if this fantasy life doesn't work out, what then? Sofia took a deep breath. Then I'll deal with the consequences. But they'll be my consequences, from my choices. Eduardo stared at his daughter for a long moment. and Sofia could see the exact moment when he gave up trying to persuade her and shifted to threats. If you don't come home today, you're cut off completely. No money, no family support, no inheritance. You'll be dead to us. The words hit Sofia like a slap, but she stood her ground. If that's what it takes for you to respect my choice, then so be it. David made one last attempt. Sofia, please, just come back with us for a few days. Think about this more carefully. If you still want to leave after that, I won't stop you. No, Sofia said firmly. I've made my decision. Eduardo nodded curtly. Very well. Don't come crying to us when reality sets in. They walked back to their SUVs without another word. Sofia watched from the porch as her father's convoy disappeared down the ranch road, taking her old life with them. Cole emerged from the barn as the dust settled. You okay? Sofia was surprised to realize that she was. I'm better than okay. I'm free. What now? Sofia looked around at the ranch that had become her sanctuary, at the man who had shown her what respect looked like, at the vast Montana sky that seemed to promise infinite possibilities. Now I start building the life I actually want, she said. If you'll have me. Cole's smile was answer enough. 6 months later, Sofia stood in the same kitchen where she'd burned her first attempt at dinner, putting the finishing touches on a meal for the ranch hands who would be helping with the spring roundup. She'd enrolled in online college courses to finish her teaching degree, had learned to manage the ranch's books, and had become an indispensable part of the operation. The wedding dress from her runaway day hung in the guest room closet, a reminder of the life she'd almost accepted. But the real reminder of how much had changed was the simple gold band on her left hand. Not the elaborate diamond David had offered her, but a plain ring that Cole had slipped on her finger 3 months ago, during a simple ceremony in the meadow behind the house. Mrs. Brennan, Cole said, coming into the kitchen and wrapping his arms around her from behind. The men are asking if there's any more of that apple pie. Tell them they'll have to wait until after dinner, like civilized people. Sofia laughed, leaning back against her husband's chest. Yes, ma'am, Cole said, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. Any regrets? Sofia looked out the window at the ranch she now called home, at the cattle she helped tend, at the life she'd built with her own hands and heart. Only one, she said. What's that? I wish I'd run away from that church sooner. Cole's laughter echoed through the kitchen, mixing with the sounds of ranch life outside, cattle lowing, horses nickering, the wind through the aspen trees. It was the sound of home, of belonging, of a love that had grown from mutual respect into something deeper than either of them had dared to hope for. Sofia Martinez Brennan had finally found where she belonged, and it wasn't where anyone, including herself, had expected. If this story of courage, love, and finding your true path moved you, smash that like button. And if this story of courage, love, and finding your true path moved you, smash that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories about people who dared to choose love over expectation. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded that it's never too late to write your own story. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest inspiring tales of second chances and unexpected romance. Remember, sometimes the best life is the one you never planned. This story proves that true love isn't about arrangements or convenience. It's about finding someone who sees your worth and gives you the freedom to become who you're meant to be. Sofia's courage to run from a life that wasn't hers led her to a love that was real, honest, and built on mutual respect. Sometimes the biggest risk is staying in a situation that's slowly killing your soul. And sometimes salvation comes in the form of a stranger willing to help when you need it most. Cole and Sofia's story reminds us that home isn't always where you're born. Sometimes it's where you choose to bloom. Their love grew not from obligation or expectation, but from shared values, mutual respect, and the daily choice to build something beautiful together. In a world that often tells us to settle for security over happiness, their story is a powerful reminder that authentic love is worth fighting for, even when it means leaving everything else behind. The Triple B Ranch became more than Sofia. Refuge. It became the place where she discovered who she really was, when no one was telling her who to be. And Cole found something he hadn't even known he was missing. A partner who chose him not for what he could provide, but for who he was at his core. Their story continues today, a testament to the power of choosing love over fear, authenticity over expectation, and the courage to write your own happily ever after.